Yeah, buddy. Okay, here's the question. Good old-fashioned icebreaker. You have 3 tokens, round trip. You can go anywhere in space-time. That's past, present, future. You can only observe. You cannot change anything. You can't save MLK or JLK. You can observe and come back, and you can still have that information to utilize however you want to. Where are you going with your 3 tokens and why?
I would say in the past, I would go to a time when I lived in India and I had just come back, and I had probably about $15,000 in the bank account, and I would want to go back there because I think that kind of changed the trajectory of where I am now, because I didn't have the knowledge of real estate. So I then would use that that information to, well, I guess I would probably go back to 2018 first. You know, that's when I learned about real estate and all the things that it could do for you. And then I would go back, you know, to over there 2006. I go 2006, and give that information to myself, I guess, or take what I could take from there. And then I would say I will use my another token to go into the future to see what those decisions look like. So I will go 2018, 2006, and then I would fast forward to probably 2028 or 2030. That's what I would do.
I like it. I like it. Very practical. See, now I feel kind of like, oh man.
Oh yeah, I'm very practical. I'm results driven.
I asked this to my son. Of course, it was dinosaurs, and you can keep the other 2 tokens. He's 7. I go back to see the dinosaurs, and I don't know. You can keep the other 2. I was like, okay, you know, he's very right.
That makes sense. Yeah.
So I don't know if this is counted as cheating, but I would go back to the birth of everything in the beginning, as the good book says.
Okay.
I'd go back to the last, or I'd go back to the time of Jesus, from him leaving the temple at 13 all the way to his death and resurrection. Okay, I got questions.
That's a lot of time.
That's a lot of time, right? But I'll come back when I want to, right? See, you gotta skirt the rules a little bit.
So you stand in the past.
Stand in the past. I'm gonna make it work. I'm gonna be a nomad. I'm gonna.
It definitely sounds like cheating, but okay.
Yeah, yeah. And then I'm gonna go to the future, to the resurrection. I got again questions.
Okay.
Yeah. Why? Listen, I'm a guy who likes answers. It's like every book I read, every show I go on, everything I do that has to do with acquiring any type of information, just makes me realize how much I don't know.
Yeah.
And so for me, if I can know, you know, the lost years, because, you know, big chunk of time from, I guess, 13 to 30, there's no real account of Christ, right?
That we're aware of, yeah.
That we're aware of, right, right. And, you know, in the beginning, I want to see exactly how he made everything. And then resurrection.
He told you.
Yeah, but I mean, listen. It's one thing. Like, right, there are some of the best movies in the world that are based off of books, right? But it's some je ne sais quoi, right?
So you want the director's cut?
Director's cut.
Right.
Yeah, I want to see him speak it into existence and watch it just
happen.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, that's my why. I'm
so you like asking questions that don't help you at all.
You don't think it would help to know how? right? Like,
how would it help to know how?
I'll give you an example. Myron Golden, you aware of this guy?
No.
Myron Golden, man, look him up. It's amazing.
Okay.
So he basically teaches rich people how to get richer, right? He's one of those.
Okay.
He does it steeped in the scriptures,
Okay.
which is a wild thing I've not seen before. Him hanging around a bunch of people who have, done tremendous things and watching how they do and just observing. And then he's taken it and utilized with his company, just tried it out, and it worked tremendously. And now he's able to, have people buy packages that pays for his private flights to speaking engagements all over the world, right? So if I go to the ultimate knowledge and I know 3 of the big questions, what was Christ doing to prepare for the last 3 years of his life? Watching God create everything, right? And then watching, the end, right? The last 1,000 years on the planet. I think that could be tremendously, beneficial. I don't know.
I would say the reason why it's not beneficial is because he didn't let us know.
Who was that? Oh, Christ.
No.
But that we know of, maybe he did. Maybe one of these books, I mean, like the Apocryphal books, right? Those were excluded. But man, those books, when I read through those books, it was really interesting. The kind of in-depth things seem a lot more humanized. The book of Jasher, I had someone point out, read this scripture from Christ. I was like, okay. And he goes, as it's written in the book of Jasher. And he was like, now go to the book of Jasher. And like an idiot, I was flipping through and like, hey, I don't see it here. He was like, exactly. I was like, what? So I had to hunt down the book of Jasher, read through it, and it's basically the account all the way up to Abraham, Isaac, Jacob. And when I tell you, like, Melchizedek shows up, more information about Moses once he first leaves Egypt, like, it's very humanized. And I can see why they would want to leave it out. One, they didn't have very many copies of it. So I think part of the Council of Constantine's way of choosing things was, well, we got 3,000 accounts saying the same thing over here. This book over here, we got 10. So we're gonna leave that out, right?
But that's what I'm saying. Like, if what I'm saying is to know why or how. Now, how God spoke the world into existence, to know how he did it. I mean, he said it, so it wasn't anything to observe, because it's also connected to when he says that life and death are in the power of the tongue. So he communicated to you, or us, shall I say, why he did what he did, or how he did what he did, right? The resurrection it's been explained why he did it, how he did it. It's been it's been tried to water down, to be erased, that it was an actual event. You're talking about those 2 points. I would just have to disagree and wanted to. That's where you want to go, but I would say that it wouldn't have much purpose in it. But if you was to say, I want to know where he was for 17 years, see what was that time like, to get him prepared for the upcoming three years. I don't know if have you seen the show The Chosen?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So I haven't watched it all. I just started. My wife just started watching it, and I began to watch it alongside her. And it's talking about Jesus before he began his ministry. Right? So, and they don't even know, but they're giving their particular perspective of what was he doing prior to his ministry. Right? I think it's more important to focus on what we do see and what he has given for us to learn from, because we don't even do a good enough job with the information we do see.
This is true. We're playing telephone. I like this. Let me interrupt us for a minute. Let's
ahead.
go ahead and start the show. I like this. Yes, sir. All right. Welcome back to another episode of Urban Academia. I'm your host, J-ZILLA. I have a very special guest. Go ahead and tell people a little bit something about yourself, sir.
Well, since I have to introduce myself, just let you know I'm probably the greatest to ever do it in the world, whatever that may be. No, seriously, in this space, I go by the name of Humble Dad. I've been on podcasts and panels in this space since 2020, and a little bit about me. That makes my story unique. I would say it like that is that I once was a widower, and now I'm not any longer. So to go from losing someone to gaining someone has been an event that only God could put together for me to live through and be able to communicate that to others. I'm a father of four. I have a doctorate degree in management, business administration, and I have a show that we talk about marriage and relationships, and we give answers and resolutions and perspectives to how people can benefit in their marriage and in their relationship. And so it's a lot of things about me that are different and unique than others, but God has created us all to be such as that. I just embrace them all. And so to that I say, let's get it in. I appreciate you having me here, bro.
Man, I'm so glad to have you. Now, continuing our conversation before the intro, what you said that really stuck out to, struck me was you talking about we do a poor job rightly discerning the word of God as it is. Right. And I think a lot of that is, even the people of the time always say the same thing, like, how can you watch God part the sea and still complain?
Yeah.
And still question and like, man, we better off there. Let's make our own golden calf. You just watched him part a sea, walk on it, and then crush your enemies behind you.
Yeah.
So it's like there's something to faith, right? Even Christ talking to his disciples when they're begging him, go show yourself around everywhere, like prove that this is all, the thing. He's like, no. He says, I'll show myself to you. Like, the people who come after me will believe. There's something about faith that is so powerful, right?
Agreed.
But like I said, I am so nosy and how it is beneficial. Okay, we'll talk about the resurrection part first. Just being able to see that far in the future, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mark of the beast. What does it actually look like, right?
Oh, you're talking about that resurrection?
Yeah.
Because
sorry. Wait, not resurrection. Sorry. Oh man, I'm losing my true of thought. The Armageddon. Man, I'm losing my mind here. What's the
last
word?
days?
The last days. Armageddon. Oh my goodness. How am I drawing?
Those words will work.
Say again.
Any one of those words will work.
Yeah. So knowing that far in the future,
direction has already happened.
Right. So
that's why I was saying that he's already answered that.
Right. So being able to see how technology is, how it works, what can I invest in 2025? It's gonna make me ultra rich. It's gonna make me ultra rich, right? By 2026. Okay. Then that way I can be able to help people on a grander scale.
See? Oh, okay. I see how you put that in there.
Huh? Well, yeah.
Just so you know. That was like a caveat.
I'm going to remember.
Hey, God, let me bless other people with the money.
Man, because I feel like there's nearly 3,000 billionaires. I don't know if it's quite reached that yet or surpassed it. I think we added like 100 this year alone.
Okay.
And so far I've seen all these ultra rich people. Like, what have they done? I just think I could do a better job.
Rich people do a lot.
Oh well, yeah, they do a lot.
What you mean?
Here's what I mean. There's a number that will provide fresh water around the world for everybody,
Okay.
right?
Mhm.
Sanitation, diseases, a lot of that stuff gets wiped out just by having clean water. We're struggling in America in some places. Your Detroits, your Missouris, you know what I mean? So it's like,
But that's not the billionaire's fault.
I'm not saying it's their fault.
Okay.
I'm saying if I were Jeff Bezos level rich,
Mm-mm.
like a quarter of that, I think I
You're a
could.
socialist, aren't you?
No, because I
Yeah.
definitely believe in hard work.
No,
I
you're a
definitely
socialist if you think that because somebody is rich that they should give their money to people.
No, not should. I'm saying what I would do because I think the whole idea. Dr. King said this in one of his speeches.
Okay.
You want to, he believed that God said, "Love thy neighbor," because if your neighbor is hungry, when he goes out to look for something to eat, you're in the immediate vicinity.
Yeah.
So you're gonna, by not sharing, you put your family at risk.
Yeah, but
Right?
he didn't say the person that's rich do that.
No, that's for everybody. Love thy neighbor goes
But you
for
said
everybody.
if I was rich, then I would. But you
On a
literally,
larger scale. Like I literally do now. I would do it on a larger scale.
okay, you didn't print it. See, you see how you fall back
Did I
after.
not say that?
No,
No,
you said
I
no.
want you to rewatch this when this comes out. I literally said, well, first of all, you had the interruption of like, selfish. And then I
Yeah,
kept going. I
yeah,
fought through that.
yeah,
And I finished my sentence, which
yeah.
landed me as one of the greatest philanthropists on the planet.
Yeah, you didn't say that. You said that you that's what you wanted to be. You didn't say that you're currently being a philanthropist.
Oh, well, yeah, that's not, I mean, that's information you didn't have before. That don't mean that anything changes, right? As I stand right now, I help people how I can. Sometimes it's a snack to a homeless person. Sometimes it's helping my neighbor when he needs help with his yard. Little things like that, because I have not the capacity yet to to expand my reach. You know what I mean? And so when I say about the rich people now, if you watch any major country that's come before us that had our position as the biggest and best or whatever, right? They've all fallen the same way. It's been some kind of revolution, rebellion because of the hunger or whatever living conditions. So I'm just saying, like, to protect yourself, you should help, right? You should help just because it's a good thing to do.
And I'm saying that most rich people do give people money.
Yeah,
I would say
I
most
think they're put in the wrong spots.
I would,
Yeah,
according to you, I would say that the majority of billionaires give away a lot of their money. That's how they stay rich, right?
yeah,
Because you get a lot of
write-offs and all that.
things of that nature. So I would say that the person that is in the lower middle class or middle class are less likely to give. And then also those that are standing outside of that say that they're Christians,
Uh-huh.
that they don't give. Only what 20% of people that go to church give to their congregation. You know, the thing about it is that whether I'm um, giving or doing, I'm being of service. So I have a partner that he doesn't necessarily like to give people his money if he can do it, right?
Right.
So that means that you're giving up your time, which is fine. But if I was to get somebody to do the same thing, it doesn't take away from me being productive, right? So I'm using my money from a different perspective, and he would be using his time uh, from a different perspective, right? Both still work. So I'm saying that to say an individual that says, well, when I get money, then I will do, right? You shouldn't wait till you have money to do anything unless it's something that requires money, right? So
Absolutely.
if you have the time, if you're saying, listen, I am currently working with my local community to make sure everybody has fresh water, or I'm going to, the neighborhood and I'm giving out, water, or if I'm going to the homeless and I'm giving out water, then you could say, okay, now I do that, but if I could do it on a larger scale, this is what it would look like. That sounds like a totally different conversation, as opposed
Yeah.
starting off with, if I had money, and then if billionaires would do better with their money. That's a totally different conversation.
I don't care about how anybody sees it necessarily at this point,
Okay.
right? Because it's all moot. Like for me, I know what I'm doing privately,
Yeah.
and my statement was simply, if I could do all those things to get more money, I can help people on a larger scale, and I stand by that. It's something, and it's probably my mistake. You know me. I'm a clumsy communicator at times, and I do appreciate you giving me the space to be clumsy and then to pick me up like a little toddler and get me back on the right path. It's one of the best parts of your shows. Like, you're so laid back and cool. You just come in with these newts with a whisper, and it's like, man, oh man, like listen. I got my whiteboard even when I'm on Humble Dad, which you can catch every Monday night, right?
That's what's up at 7:30.
7:30, not 9 when I showed up.
Yeah, 7:30 Central Standard Time. I had to change the time because I wanted to have the opportunity for more married women to have to come on the show. And so I was when I would reach out to married women to be on the show, they would say, well, that time is too late for me. Right? So I made the adjustment, and it also worked in my favor as well, because the other panelists appreciated that time as well. They didn't seem to have to be. They didn't feel as rushed to try to get their points and things of that nature out there. And by the way, it is one of the best shows on YouTube.
Absolutely. He's already crossed 1,000. Ain't no telling where he's going to take you next.
Yeah.
I believe once you get that glass, roof shattered, the sky is the limit.
Sure.
So this is one of the things I like about your show. You allow people their opinions, and you don't try to change their minds. You just have better opinions.
You see it? You see? You didn't recognize it. You didn't recognize it, bro.
Man.
That's a way of putting it, man. Listen, I ain't trying to change your mind, but just know what I'm saying is better.
Right. And listen, I agree with you wholeheartedly. And that's what I meant about being a clumsy communicator.
Yeah.
Because I didn't make you or the audience aware of what I do outside of this, internet box.
Yeah.
Right.
Because it could sound judgmental, right? If I don't give my premise of why I'm saying what I'm saying.
And I think that's the engineering side of my brain. That's my scientist brain, right? Which is, we've had a couple thousand years and we have not solved food, water, shelter for everyone. There are still people now, and I don't mean the people who are mentally ill or who are just rebellious in nature, or people who are doing it because they prefer living off the grid, it's like nomads and whatnots. Okay. I mean the people who are working, they're trying, and still just not enough. Can't make the ends meet, right? We still have not solved that problem, seemingly. And so
how do you feel about when God says that the poor will always be with you?
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. Like, I'm not talking about the people. I'm not really serving that problem or trying to save that problem. What I am trying to change is opportunity. Okay? There is no reason that Michigan, that Missouri, in this country, and some other places, for some reason, most notably in the South, there's no reason for them to have to deal with some of the issues that they deal with. Now, I would like them to stand up and vote, and hey, if the vote goes against what the people say, then hey, we're not buying another Coke product, that gumming, until you start taking that money out of that politician's pocket and putting it in that politician's
politics, bro.
Huh?
Do you want to talk politics?
Yeah. Man, listen, we've had debates on here about abortion. Like, there's after that, and after the LG plus community, we had a couple of people who were part of that community come on. Like, after that, it's like, I ain't counsel by now.
Okay. So then that means that you would have to, because the places that you mentioned are mainly Democratic ran counties, right? So, and who votes in those particular counties are Black people.
Black and brown.
Right. Yeah, but more Hispanics would vote conservatively than Black people.
Oh, I didn't know that. I thought maybe like brown immigrants, like India, people from India, people from Cuba and places like that. I know they heavily vote for, because they recognize all this, like you said, socialist type language. as like, no. We've heard this before. We see where that leads. Absolutely not. They
That's
go,
why I say that they were more likely to move towards conservative,
yeah.
right?
Hmm.
Uh, so I'm saying when we talk about the Black community, uh, it has been communicated to the Black community that it's somebody else's problem, and it got to be the other side of specifically, it got to be the Republicans are the reasons why we are not doing well. However, they don't see that their county is still Democratic and the situation is still what it is. I think that's some incredible gameplay right there.
Oh yeah, they make it
For me,
about the
for
presidency.
me to tell you that it's not my fault that we are in the predicament that we're in, even though I am the leader in this particular county, it's somebody else that is stopping me from getting the thing done. And y'all believe it, and you still vote for me to try to change the thing that hasn't been changed. That's masterful, bro. Like when the enemy does what he does it well.
Man. So here I want to go further because I would argue that those people who are voting Republican who are not of a certain, I would say, tax bracket, they're struggling as well in the red states. And so for me, I look at
specific. What is
struggling well, education, the food and water crisis here in America is what I call it, right? The wages, right? I believe in Georgia, there's not even a minimum wage to give the workers more negotiation power. So I when I see left and right, I just see same thing.
Okay.
Right? They're two sides of the same coin. But what we fail at is, like you said, being a little bit more educated on what people do and how this process works, and then how to get involved and change it yourself.
Correct.
Right. I don't care about voting blue or red,
We're on the
whatever
same
colors independents are. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm with you.
It's interesting too. It's interesting too, because this ties into a conversation we had on Humble Podcast, right? On Humble Dad Podcast. Live 7:30 p.m. every Monday night, Central Time, right there on YouTube. We have this conversation about marriage, right? And we were having a kind of private conversation. I hope you don't mind me bringing it to the forefront.
At all.
Okay. About it changing around the 60s, if I'm not mistaken.
That's a fact.
Right. And I thought that was interesting for you to say, because one, is definitely true. Two, something else happened around that time as well, right? As we're starting to creep towards, this is the time, we go from, what was it, Kennedy to Johnson. Was it Nixon after that? And then Reagan?
Possibly. I'm not, that sounds right. I'm not sure. I have to look it up to be certain, but I know Johnson was definitely after Kennedy, and Johnson definitely made it a problem.
Man, listen, people out there, please forgive the language. I try not to say anything too strong on this show, but this is a direct quote, right? He did not want to sign. This is Lyndon B. Johnson. Lyndon Bain Johnson, right?
That's the word Bain, right?
Say again?
Interesting, the word Bain, right?
Yeah.
From the Marvel characters.
Or DC, yeah.
DC, my bad, you're right.
He's the only guy that got broke Batman's back, broke him physically. Joker broke him mentally, right? That's my guy.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he had a quote, like they were pushing him to do what Kennedy was going to do, which is sign the civil rights bill, and he didn't want to do it. So finally, he reluctantly do it, and I'm pretty sure he was quoted as saying, "We'll have these niggers voting Democrat for the next 200 years."
Yeah, I've heard that quote.
And I think this is what we're talking about. We have a couple things all happening at the same time. It's almost as if the enemy is diversifying how he's going to attack God's people, right?
Yeah.
Not only economics and politics, but also through the desolation of the nuclear family.
That's the number way. That's the number one way to get anything. if you because if you go back, man, I wish I remember the book. It was a book that was written where it was comparing Germany to America. I read it several years ago, and how Hitler was able to deceive the people into getting his way, so to speak. And one of those ways was to get to the children. And the number one way to get to the children is to isolate the dad away from the mother, right? And so he made it important for them to be in the educational system, in the public educational system, right? And so um, if you liken that to when you go to what Johnson was saying, he could see the same thing. He could see that there was a strong black family and that blacks typically stayed together and were connected and had community. And if he would have to reach back prior to um, integration, uh, when slavery was happening, they were taking black men away from families, right? And you could see how how it was detrimental to the community, right? And so then when what happened? I think when the slaves got free, they did a whole freedmen bank. They had all types of senators, I believe, at the time, even after slavery. So it shows you how impactful black people could be once they was working together. And then it also showed you how there was certain, I say the white, it had to be white people, right? The white people, there were certain white people that did not want to see black people thrive, meaning the Democratic Party specifically, right? And so, but even in the chaos, black people had a strong family orientation, um, you know, and people were going to school. Like women would go to college, and men would be working these regular type jobs and whatnot. And the woman didn't think any lesser of her man, you know. But then it transitioned to feminism from a negative position, as well as you had the drugs infiltration, um, and then you had the public school education. All of those going together to kind of dwindle um, the I guess the education of people. You know what I'm saying? So, um, and that's where we are now. Is that marriage has been on an attack since the 60s. And then when TV got popular, it even elevated even more. I mean, people talk about the Cosby Show being a great show, but if you look at into detail, I mean, Cosby was made fun all the time as a dad. Felicia Rashad wasn't really made fun of that often, right? And
Right.
then you go to Family Matters. Carl Winslow was always made fun of. I think there was only one episode that I can remember, and we watched 7 seasons. I want to say, what 2 or 3 years ago, we was watching it
Mm.
because we were just trying to. It was a nostalgia of we wanted to
Yeah.
watch something with our kids and get them to see something that we were seeing, right? And then we started watching it, and we could see that the wife was made to be. You can't make fun of her, right? And she was working and she was coming home and cooking, which is cool, right?
Mhm.
But at the same time, they would, lack of a better word, they would demonize the dad,
Yeah.
Tim
Little him.
Allen. Yeah,
Yeah.
they would belittle him. So every commercial, things of that nature, to make men appear to be buffoons and things of that nature. So
Mhm.
uh, it has worked, because now you have the statements of a good portion of women, now that they're educated at school related, educated in that sense,
Mhm.
and they make money, they don't feel like they would need a man because they only see the man as someone that can provide to them financially.
Right. Yeah. You can still get in the fight for me. You can still change the tire, take the trash out, cut the grass.
Yeah,
Right. You know each other at night. Right.
yeah, hmm
Besides that, yeah, I don't need you. And there's so many places and spaces in the arts, in true politics, everything. Like the self-deprecating joke that dads even do,
Yeah.
right? You know, that's a huge thing. I remember telling someone I was trying to have a serious conversation with, and they just kind of like, "Oh, girls, this is you being used." Like,
What
and
that mean?
right, right. First, I asked what it means. Like, well, I mean, you know. so, so here I go. I said, "Look, man, I'm sorry that I do laugh and joke a lot, and I'm a very, very silly man at times."
Yeah.
I said, you know, I'm sorry that I didn't show you more of my intellectual side, my serious side, my theological side, right? But you know, we gotta change the dynamics of our relationship here, right?
Mhm.
I literally start off with an apology, like, because I thought about it. It's like, yeah, I do a lot of silly stuff. I make a lot of jokes against myself. I take a lot of jokes. If it's funny, I find it funny.
Just
I
funny.
don't care
Yeah.
who says it, right?
Yeah.
So there are a lot of times that people will, you know, clown on me, and I'm laughing alone because I mean that was a funny. That was a funny line. I don't know what to say, right? And so I literally had to like start trying to pay attention and teach people how to treat me, right?
Mhm. Facts.
Yeah, yeah. But that's so interesting. So something happened. So there was a time, I think during Roosevelt, where corporate taxes and people in the top 1% pay somewhere 90 to 95% in taxes. I don't even
Wow.
understand how that would work. You know what I mean?
Wow.
And because there were tons of incentives that if you do this, meet this criteria and help, you know, blah, 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 right? Lots of philanthropy, lots of things that help the infrastructure, you know, the city, like they do with stadiums now. They ask for the taxpayers to pay for it. That's how it kind of was with the rich, right? You get X amount of that back if you help to, you know, repair this bridge and maintain it, right? Open up a company and keep it here. Something happened where it used to be a few things were cuffed together. There was production, right? There was cost of living, right? And wages. These three things were kind of cuffed together, right? And then somewhere after, you know, around the mid to late 70s into the 80s, something changed to where, you know, what is it, trickle down economics became a thing with Reagan, but it was already happening well before that on both sides, Democrats and Republicans. How can we cut taxes from this giant group of people so we're going to trust that they pass down their extra earnings down to their employees, right? You know what I mean? And then
Yeah.
becoming more globalists. We
Mm.
stop producing a lot of things. We start, you know, employing other countries to
Mm.
make the thing. And then we got more involved in technology and math and science and all that stuff. You know, it's crazy to think about. At one point, you know, Americans and the Brits would laugh at these meetings about technology at the Japanese.
Mm.
And they're like, can you believe them? Every time we're showing a presentation, every clip, all you hear is they're taking pictures of everything. Laugh at them, you know. And now they're thought. I mean, it's crept into just you know, everyone's psyche that you think about Asians. One of their unfortunate and very fortunate things that we think about them is smart,
Yeah.
hardworking, mathematical, right? Japan, technological like masterminds now.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I'm trying to figure out, Democrats or black people used to vote for Republicans. Dr. King gets thrown in jail. They urge Nixon to go. Right, Nixon. They urge Nixon to go. Right, Nixon wants to go because he's actually closer to Dr. King than Kennedy, but he's afraid of disrupting the Southern vote.
Mm.
Right.
Okay.
Robert F. Kennedy, which if you guys out there, our book club is coming. I'm going to try to figure out how to get that autobiography of JFK's dad. Right. Very interesting story. Like you talk about a guy who just willed himself to, I'm going to make a ton of money so my kids don't have to worry about working in a factory or a farm so they can enter into public office. Presidents, mayors, governors, whatever. You're gonna serve your country. You're gonna go, you know what I mean? So he talks him into it, and JFK goes and visits instead of Nixon. That was it. And we have been living off that like a over the hill NBA player who's getting a max contract because he won a championship 10 years ago. That's what it feels like to me. You ever see that? Like sometimes you don't get to your level of play. Sometimes you get paid based off of what you did back then.
Like Chris Paul.
Who? I'm not naming names now. But yeah, sure. Yeah, man.
Like you saying Russell Westbrook?
Oof.
Okay.
Well, I know that one hurt. But yeah, so Democrats have been living off of that for a while, right? I always thought it was interesting. I signed up for 2 separate newsletters, right? Republican and Democrat. Because again, I'm a seeker. I love getting information.
Yeah.
Right? And just some of the stuff, Republicans were like, if you vote Democrat, if Biden gets in here, he's gonna sign bills. And remember in the Bible where it talks about, evil people dashing babies against the wall. And it's like,
That's crazy.
That's wild.
I mean, it is some truth to it though.
But I look into my Democrat people, and if they get in, they'll be like, they're both sides are doing the same thing. I want to hear that thought. I don't think I didn't hear that. What do you mean? Like there is some truth to it. Have we warmed up enough for abortion talk? Is that what we're getting towards?
I mean, it's nothing to really converse about. I mean, I would imagine my side has already kind of been elaborated on. Like, I wouldn't say that I'm either or, especially when I discovered that it was the Republicans that said yes to abortion, because it happened in Dallas, right? Roe v. Wade. And but most people don't know that, right? And so, but what I'm communicating is that I think they work together. That's what I think. However, I believe that one is worse, like really bad for Black people specifically, right? And being a person that's a believer of the gospel, I do know that we're one race. I understand that. But there are some, now that they have divided us, then I can still communicate to my people of where we need to be productive, right? So what I mean by that is, in Democratic counties, ran counties, we have the highest crime rate, the lowest education. It's 80% of where abortion clinics are. All the negatives lie in us voting for Democrats. Okay, it's kind of like, as someone said, let's say that the Republicans are racist. At least they let us know.
I hate that with all my being.
But I'm just saying, whatever the case may be, the other one is literally lying to you, saying that we cool with you. However, they put down traps to make sure that we don't do well. And it be our own people. Is what I'm communicating. In a lot of metropolitan areas that are predominantly Black, are ran by Black people. And most people don't. I would imagine that most people don't know that, right? So, for example, in Dallas, there are several Black judges. The head of the police department is Black. The city councilman is also Black. Right. But then they're blaming somebody else for why we can't get things done. Now, this is my position. My position is that the church needs to be more active in communicating people the authenticity of the gospel. Right. What I mean by that is you do supposed to help your neighbor, but you got to help yourself first. If you don't work, you don't eat. You know what I'm saying? It's a lot of handouts, but those handouts should be for people that are in the process of doing better, not just sitting around doing nothing. Right? Because all you're doing is enabling people to not do something. Think about it from a parent standpoint. As a parent, education system, right? I'm in education, and that bill that was passed about No Child Left Behind, it really rocked the United States outside of single parent families, because in the education system, it made it very challenging for teachers to teach because teachers had to pass students along to the next grade and they hadn't even completed what it is that they needed for the prior grade. So what that meant to the kid and what that said to the kid was that you don't have to do your work in order to move up. So then when you get to a teacher like me, that you're going to get the grade that you earned. Now I'm looked at as a bad teacher from that kid's perspective until I'm having to use my tools of knowing the gospel and knowing how to communicate with young people and knowing that I see what life looks like without having critical thinking skills. I teach differently and I'm not concerned about being fired. And I have been let go a couple of times because I stood on my principles. But God has also taken care of me during the times where I thought that I wasn't going to have anything. So a lot of people proclaim to be Christians, but don't live like it. And so if we could get people to actually live, well, we can't get them to, what I'm saying is, I would say it like this: if people would do what it is that they say they are, then you would see a totally different community of people. Is what I'm saying.
Yeah,
that's my long-winded answer. Cut short.
No, man. Listen, here at Urban Academia, we love that. And please, 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 people out there, the link is right there in the comments. Okay, click that, subscribe. Humble Dad Podcast, Monday night, 7:30 Central Standard Time. All right. This is, man, my mind is just you've got all my neurons lighting up, man. We'll start with this concept of you trying to help yourself first.
Yeah.
And then getting help.
Yeah.
Right. It sounds like teach a man to fish versus giving a man a fish.
Facts.
So when you said earlier, like, oh, you sound like socialist, it's like, I care about poor people. I want to help poor people. But yeah, a handout, absolutely not.
Well, then teach them how to make money.
Teach them how to make money, but it takes some
teach them a skill or put them in a position, get them a number 2 call that, but just giving is not helpful. Like I was telling you, in the education system, students are given grades right now. Right. So if they don't do their homework, that's even a thing. They don't want kids to have homework. Now, I would be on board with that if your students were at level. I would be cool. That makes sense. Yeah. But because parents have decided to allow somebody else to teach their kids, and they wait till the kid goes to elementary, and then it's like they don't even know their alphabets. They don't know how to count. They don't know their colors. They don't know their shapes. And you have already started your kid off from behind. So in the school system, they're just like, okay, kindergarten, first, second grade, we're gonna pass y'all, and then third grade, we're gonna test you. And even if you fail the test, we're gonna pass you anyway. We just need to make this money, right? We just need to show people that we are testing y'all. Okay. And we got to put on a show, basically. And the test doesn't even matter. And we're going to tell you that it does because it's going to cause a lot of stress on you. You think that's going to change something for a kid because they're stressed out about taking the test, right? So it's a combination. If parents would read the Bible, live out the Bible, then and allow the Bible to change their life, then they would see their kid differently. They would see the government differently. They would see God differently, and they would get different results. But not until and then they wouldn't care about the politics. Right? They wouldn't care about Democrat or Republican, or you would be more informed. One of the two, right? You wouldn't care, or you would be more informed.
I think more informed and probably more likely to pay attention, right? There's one thing to be informed. There's another thing, with informed with knowledge. I think, like, if you think about wisdom, it's 3 parts of that. There's knowledge, experience, and just good discernment or good judgment, right? You have to have all 3 to be considered wives. And I think knowing about it is one huge part of it. A lot of people just don't know. But paying attention, that's something else. That's getting out there, getting after it, and getting experience, right? You learn like, ooh, I touched the stove, it's hot. Don't touch it again, right? Now you've put those things. Now I know. I already knew that it was on. It was glowing red. Mama told me don't touch it. But I'm a knucklehead, so I'm gonna see for myself. Ooh, now I got experience and mama's knowledge combined with my own. And now the next time I get to utilize the third part of wisdom, which is discernment. Not touching the stove again. You know what I mean?
I would add to that, and to teach another.
Mhm.
I would
Yeah.
add to that part. Once
Ooh,
you
now
get
that's
the
interesting.
wisdom, teach another.
Mhm.
That's discipleship.
That's funny. Your show is centered around relationships, especially. It seems like, and I don't know if it's my very little experience on the show. It seems to be geared more towards addressing the ladies, right? But it is funny
Okay.
that.
Oh, what a transition. Let's get it. Hey, this has got
Right.
to listen. You're gonna be wrong if you go against me on this one. Go ahead.
What go against you? We're on the same team. Hold on, time out, coach. Get him.
And hey, listen, because you had sent me something, and it seemed like you weren't tracking.
I want to look because I'm gonna have to look at do you remember what I actually sent you?
I don't remember it off the top. But what's interesting is that my mom told me the same thing, right? And but I said, and I read the titles to her of my shows.
Titles, man.
Huh?
I'm telling people, hey, Academics, I need y'all to go check this guy out, man. Humble Dad Podcast every Monday, 7:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. Go ahead.
Okay. Some of my titles. How to keep your marriage fresh. How is marriage a flex? Women don't want a good man. Don't want good men. Women don't like easy, boys do. Servant or slave, married life. Right? What else? Make your marriage yours. How to stay married. Part 1, 2, 3. I think I had 3 parts to that. How did that sound like women?
Oh, the actual show, sir.
Those were the titles.
Those are the titles. The
They
actual information given mostly, and I preface my statement with, I am, a limited guest. I'm just new to the Humble Dad, right, rotation. But yeah, it seems like, and I can't tell if like the women hear something that's kind of meant for everybody, and then it makes them feel a way because of their personal experiences. And so as they go to defend a point that wasn't necessarily pointed at them, men kind of jump in and like, all right, now here's what I said, here's the actual thing, here's this, that, and the third. Yeah. So that's why I think it seems right. I want to be very accurate with my words here. It seems like
it's fair to seem that way when as they say, a hit dog hollers, right? So
I knew someone was coming. I didn't know it was that, man. Well done.
so what I'm saying is that it was at one point we could say let's blame both, right? We could say that. However, if we begin by saying both, then who starts the change first? So it's important for us to see where the root of the problem is, and we got to start at the root, right? So if you say you're starting with leadership, well, leadership is not the root, right? That's at the top. You got to start at the bottom to fix a major problem. And so currently, and since I've been in this space and I talked to several women, if women would change their mindset as it relates to how they see the gospel first, right? If they would see that the gospel says, Jesus was a servant leader, obviously, but then when you transition to, I think it's in Ephesians where it talks about the wife being submissive to the husband, then that husband is being submissive to God. That means that you should not allow a dude that's not submitted to God to even enter your space. But if you allow a man that is not on a journey as it relates to a Christ-led journey, and then you come back and you give him your goods, how you blame him for the reason why you gave up your goods? There have been women that have told me that when men manipulate them out of the draws, that's a false statement, because no man can manipulate you out of your draws. Because as my wife Kendra said, she said a person that's scammed was looking to scam somebody else.
But that's tricky
It
because
is.
scientifically speaking, the scammer usually doesn't believe, right?
Mhm.
They're a huge mark because I know I've definitely been scammed, right? So like the mark of a good mark is literally you needing it or wanting it to work so badly, and that
You want to take the easy way out.
yeah.
For lack of a better word.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Because if you're willing to do the work, it's going to be hard for somebody to tell you to do the easy route when it goes against principles.
Hard.
So for example, we're talking specifically about sex though, right? So how can a guy manipulate you out of your draws if you did not want to give him your draws?
Oh man.
There's no word. If you have a boundary, there's no words that's going to get you out of it. There's no amount of money that's going to get you out of your draws.
Help me peel that layer back one more step.
Okay.
We'll
Is this an onion? Orange? What?
It's an onion. Yeah. We're trying to get to the center. Right? We got to peel it, chop it up, put in some, Allen's green beans or something.
Okay.
You ain't got time to chop it out the garden.
Okay.
So, right, if the women aren't prepared properly, right, or preparing themselves properly, once you get to a certain age, it's on you. I'm a firm believer of that.
Okay.
But if they aren't prepared, then they're more likely to fall for some of these schemes.
But what's the scheme?
Scheme the guy like, hey, what's up, beautiful? Like, compliments that she's never heard.
Right. All of those are fine and dandy, but we're talking about your value. Your value is like your men want sex, right? And men will say things to get sex. Women know that. You understand what I'm saying? It's not that they don't know that, from what I've been told by women. You see what I'm saying? So if a guy if you allowed him to have sex with you, so before you got married, that's on you. That's on both of y'all, right? I understand that premise.
Yeah.
However, you're the one that has the house key. You're the one that's in the house.
And you're leaving out the people who would kick down the doors, right? I'm not talking about those people.
Yeah, he knocked at your door. You said yes, he can come in. How is it his fault that you let him in?
He's the leader.
No. But what I'm saying is he's not your husband, though.
He's not the husband.
So there's no reason why he should be coming in if he's not your husband. And,
right.
And because this is what I'm telling you. When we go back to the feminist movement, we got sexual liberation. Men are held accountable by women saying no. You feel me? So if a woman, they say men need to be held accountable. That I agree. And the way you hold a man accountable is to say, no, you're not going to have sex with me. You don't even know me like that. You got women that will show themselves on the gram. It was a guy who said it like this. He said back in the day, you had to at least talk to the woman in order to see her goods. Right. And she was like, well, it was because men had it like that. And he was like, okay, I guess every man has it like that now then. You know what I'm saying? Because if you're willing to show the goods without anybody putting any time or any energy, that says that you don't have a good self value of yourself. And I'm saying that the root currently is that there are some women that are not operating from a biblical perspective. Men, I know men are not. You feel me?
Mm-hmm.
But there are currently, I talked to some men that are trying to rock from a biblical perspective. They struggle in finding women that don't want to have sex with them. Shout out to my CJ 500 who did my intro to the show, by the way.
Okay.
I had made a comment to him. We was on a show like maybe 10 months ago. He was on the show and I was telling him he was talking about the women, about how they just out here throwing it out and everything like that. And I said to him, I said, well, you're taking it, so you're part of the problem.
Mm.
So that's me holding him accountable, right? Now,
Yeah.
little did I know that he gravitated to that to be like, you know what, he might be right. I didn't know that until a couple shows ago. And he said, shout out to Humble Dad who made me think because he was like, no, he said, I've been celibate for the past 9 months. That's what he said.
Mm.
And I said, what? For real? I said, I remember we were talking about that XYZ. And he was like, yeah, you're the one of the reasons why I started doing that. He said, but in his journey, though, being celibate, when he would talk to women, they would just want to have sex with him.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't want him to be celibate. Right? Because that's what women will say. Well, it's the man. Well, to some degree, it is. And I'm just saying that I want to start at the root where the problem is. As a teacher, that's what I do. I try to find out where are the most missed problems. Why did people miss it? Was it my teaching, or was it the level of they weren't paying attention? So I got to figure that out, right? But right now, every woman knows that if they have sex, it's possible that they can get pregnant.
Right.
And so then you also know that women typically only have sex with dudes they like.
Mm-hmm.
So then how did he manipulate you?
I think it starts with what you see. It could be how he talks, carries himself. It could be financial,
Okay.
right? But you say get to the root of it. This is the thing I'm trying to get off the ground, right? Dr. HD.
Yeah.
It's looking at things objectively, trying to put the least amount of labels on it, and looking at it with what I call my spiritual goggles.
Let's do that.
So if I put my spiritual goggles on, we know the root cause is the enemy.
Correct.
We know, according to the Bible and our own experiences and experiences of those we trust, how the many different ways that the enemy can operate.
Okay.
Right. So if I'm looking at that, I think, and you hit it, that's what we were talking about. We were talking about who should be first, because I strongly disagree with, who should make the change first and all that. Because I see it as people who are in alignment with God and people who are out of alignment with God. That's it for me. So man, woman, child, I don't care if you're either in alignment or you're out of alignment. And it could be for a moment, for specific situations. It could be a lifestyle to where you're doing a lot of things out of alignment.
Yeah.
Right. So for me, I want to do sort of right out of the art of war, right? I want to do a pincer move and attack this thing from both sides.
Okay.
I think there's some real wisdom by the Bible saying, hate the sin, not the sinner. Right. So if I'm looking at the problem as in alignment, out of alignment, right, I'm talking to men and women simultaneously about how to be in alignment inside of their quote unquote role. Right. I think that's where I was coming from.
And I'm with you. That's why I gave you both premises. I gave you the premise of the guy who is being celibate.
Mm-hmm.
And he's saying that, and that's 3 guys that I've talked to. Of course, that's a small sample size, right? The one guy, though, of the sample size, he got a lot of women. Okay, according to his statement, he had, he's been married before, and and he has a daughter, and so it went back into the field, if you will, and he was doing his thing, as he said. But then when his mind changed to not wanting to be that way, he has a hard time finding women that would be uh, in alignment. You see what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So I'm saying that it's already, um, maybe I can say it like this: it's already a shortage of men in
Mhm.
relation to women. So think about that. If it's a shortage of men, and there are women not being found as wives, then that would tell you that it's the women that need to have an adjustment.
Hmm.
If
I
I'm in
don't
the
know why that strikes me.
if I'm in the education,
Uh-huh.
and I'm in an administrative position.
Mhm.
So when I go into the classroom, I have to observe: is it the student or is it the teacher?
Mm.
Right. So is the teacher well prepared to teach the lesson? Are they communicating it to the students well enough for them to receive that information? Pretty simple, right?
Right.
Okay. So what I'm saying is, in the scenario that connecting it from men to women, is that men are telling women what it is that they want in a wife,
Mhm.
regardless if you like it or not. They're telling you, we want a woman that is peaceful. We want a woman that's fit, feminine, friendly, um, and they don't even talk about being faith oriented when they
Mm.
mention a woman, right? They don't do that. So they even give you the freedom not to have a faith, right? I don't agree with that, but I'm just saying men don't say that I'm looking for a God fearing woman necessarily. So
Mhm.
even with him giving you the out of not following Christ, which what you should be doing,
Mhm.
there are women that are not wanting to be wives just because of they don't believe that they need to be submissive to a guy.
Why not?
Why they don't want to be submissive to a guy?
Mhm.
I would say the reasons that they have given is that um, he's not a good leader.
Mhm.
Uh, he doesn't make enough money,
Mhm.
um, and and what's the other one? It's another one. I can't think of the other one, but it's typically they say that he's not a leader, and that he doesn't make enough money. Well, that's not what classifies it. Okay, so if he's not a leader, let's
Mhm.
go. Then why be in a relationship with him? Why go on a date with him? Why give him your goods? Why give him your time? Give him your energy
Mhm.
if he's not a leader, right? So I'm saying that if he it, if I'm in agreement with you, young lady, because I have these conversations with women,
Mhm.
it because this one young lady, she was like, well, it's not a lot of men out here, you know, there's not a lot of good ones out here, XYZ. I said, so why do you give the bums some play then? So how is it the guy the if it's hard to find, then that means you should even be more reserved in how you look. And I'm saying that women are not doing that.
Mhm.
Men don't have to because some men don't have to because they already know they're going to get the characteristics of a wife without being married. So it doesn't behoove them to change their behavior.
Mhm.
And then top it off, we're gonna have the show on Monday where it talks about women fear marriage, men fear divorce, right?
Interesting.
Uh, and so this whole dynamic of that both see marriage as a negative, right? Men see the marriage as a good thing. Women see the marriage as a bad thing. Men fear divorce because they're saying, I feel like I made a great decision. This is going to be this is one of the top decisions of my life. And if it doesn't work out, then I'm going to lose in the end. And I'm going to be a failure. And I don't want to be a failure. So they're reluctant. And then they can't find a woman that is fit, feminine, friendly, fun. And there's another one I can't remember. Right. That shout out to Shannon, who Shannon Rawls on King Talk, who talks about that. And guys don't have a lot of expectations of a woman, right? So it should be easier for a woman to find a guy than it is for a guy to find a woman, because uh, guys don't have a lot of things that you got to do to please them.
I think I figured something out. I think because you're not saying anything that's wildly out of the range of
Or anything new.
Nothing new, and it's all accurate. I feel like maybe, like, I don't like broad brushstrokes.
That's unfortunate.
So the idea the idea that men are, women are, Christians are, men, all this stuff, like it's
Is
so
a sinner
many.
a sinner?
Say again.
Is a sinner a sinner? Does a sinner sin?
Does a sinner sin? Yes.
That's a broad statement.
Yeah.
But it's
Yeah.
still
Or I guess I should say opinions, right? Because if you say men,
opinion.
like I'm saying, so when women say men cheat, right? All you need is one man on planet who is faithful, and then that no longer is fact. That is,
But we speak in generalities.
we do speak in generalities, but I think this is part of the misconceptions that get floated around out here. So you said, why do women, some women, I would say, view things the
I
way
would say
they,
most.
you would say most.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even
You
if I
talked about
even if
the-
I'm in the 60 to 70%.
Yeah, that's fine. But man, 60-70% is wow. Like that's
I talk
huge.
I think I would have a different perspective if I didn't talk to and watch and seek and listen. My mom is one of five daughters.
Mhm.
Of course, I've had two wives. And my current wife even makes this statement, and she sees women all the time.
Right.
Right. Then I've been in the teaching profession, which is where it's dominated by women.
Mhm.
I've been on panels. I've been in conversations, and the thought process behind, and I've been in the church.
Right. So in your experience, I think is another good phrase to use in that.
Not just
Because
my
in my
experience.
experience,
I'm even reading these things.
this is what I'm saying. We have gotten so far away from each other as far as shared reality. Like the things that I'm reading, the statistics, my personal experiences are not like that. It's just like when Jamie mentioned that young lady who had the 50-part series on being done bad by a guy.
Yeah.
Right. I had no clue that existed. I go home and I tell people about what I do, and man, if you heard of Mr. Beast, they don't even know who Mr. Beast is. He's the most watched person on the planet. You know what I mean? Like how we can make the world so big and so small is very interesting. But I will say, we do know that it's very easy to trick the brain. So putting your spiritual goggles on, going all the way back to the beginning, in that small sample size, it's all relative, right? Because if you say small sample size about men going celibate, like I was actually a guy who went celibate and tried to get my girlfriend at the time to go celibate too, because I was reading the word and I was like, man, I don't feel good about
what she say.
She thought I was like cheating.
Thank you.
And she wanted to break up.
Thank
She
you.
broke up with me in a text message.
Thank
and
you.
I said, okay. But then God led me to my beautiful now wife, who had gone celibate, didn't tell anybody. It's just something we were doing privately, and it led us to each other. Right. So that's how I feel like, in my experience, that's how God works for me.
I'm with you. So think about that.
But I'm saying, if you say the men who are celibate, who go celibate, I feel like they find pretty good women, right?
You do? You saying that based on you?
Based on me and just a few other people. I also have a small sample size versus all men. But I'm saying, if you think about men and women in general who are trying to follow, if they don't believe in the Bible and follow it, at least the wisdom and the morality of the Bible, which is found in many places, right? I think if we came to that kind of conclusion or that agreement, then they do have a better time dating, right?
Yes, they have a better time dating, but that's not what we're referring to, right?
Well, I'm saying dating leading up to marriage, right?
Yeah, but I'm talking about that. um, Well, if you look at if you're saying you're going by the studies and the research,
Hmm.
the studies and the research showed that or state that men or boys from the age of what 18 to 30
18 and 30.
are not having sex.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, but
Okay.
those, okay, now this is something that our beautiful,
So that, but however,
hang on,
you look
this
at
is
the
something that
same.
the politicians use a lot.
No,
Just bear
I
with me.
hear it from a politician.
No. I'm saying the ideal of the study says that men aren't having sex. Yeah, women aren't having as much sex as their parents and grandparents, right? There's been a decline. There's also been the advent of social media. There's more anxiety. There's more distancing, right? There's less face-to-face communications.
You realize that women have more access now to multiple men without anybody knowing it
I think it's clusters.
anytime.
I really do think it's clusters. Like there's a guy who said I can't remember which podcast I was watching.
What do you mean by clusters?
Well, okay, I'll tell you. He says like this guy, a friend of his, he made pro. He got around these people and he's flying all over the country, right? He says, man, it's only about 1,500 girls out here getting passed around on that level, right? It's not like these NBA guys.
You missing what I'm saying, because I'm not saying that at all.
No, I'm not saying. I'm just saying. I'm talking about clusters, right?
And I'm saying what I'm telling you,
Mhm.
right? I'm saying that every woman has the opportunity to have as many guys
Mhm.
as they would desire, because men hit up women's inbox on a regular.
Right. But do you think every woman is taking advantage of that?
Do I think that?
Every
I don't
woman
think.
is taking
Let me
advantage.
answer it like this. Okay,
Mhm.
it overinflates their ego.
I can see that.
So the guy that would approach them is not seen to be on her type or on her level or whatnot, right? So do they take it? I'm gonna say no, they don't necessarily take it,
Mhm.
but because it had that, if you read you're going with research, right? If you look at it, even on Facebook, on a timeline, you see more women taking selfies than guys.
Oh, it works
Women are more active on social media than men
because it works.
because of
Right.
the attention.
That's what I mean. It works.
Right.
It gets them
So
the attention now.
that goes to what I'm saying,
Mhm.
right? That if men are less likely for women to get into his inbox, right? So men don't have the same opportunities as women, and when it comes to having sex. So I'm saying this thing that we have with the gender war is surrounded about it's based on sex.
I
It's
think the gender war is fabricated, like most of these wars.
if that was the case,
Yeah.
if that was the case, then it would not be a push for people to be single.
It's relative. No, it would be if your goal. No.
Thomas Sowell.
Right. And what Thomas Sowell will say, that exists so a certain amount of people can exhibit a certain amount of control as well as financial gain. There's something that is gained by a very small group of people to keep people separate, to keep the men feeling like.
No, that's not true at all.
What's not true?
Not a small segment of people that if there are two different households,
No. Hang on, real quick.
All right.
There's a small amount of people who are benefiting from this. That's where you get the 1%. That's how you can have a pandemic and the top 10 billionaires double and quadruple or double and triple their wealth. Yeah. That's all I'm saying. Yeah, there's a small amount of people who own most of the land.
See, that's not what I understand what you're saying. I understand that.
Okay, so what I'm saying is there is something to be gained if I, one, split the family. If I, two, make the man seem like a clown. 3, embolden the women to believe that that dude isn't good enough for me.
Yeah.
He works at Walmart. Girl. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because what that does is now, hey, and it's government backed.
Yeah.
Right? You don't need him. Matter of fact, if you have a dude in the house and you on Section 8 and we catch him there, you're gonna be in trouble.
So what
Like
am
you
I
can lose your Section 8 if you got your baby daddy living with you.
you know that? So what are you saying? The government in itself gains money by there being single mothers. By the 3rd grade, they know how many jails to build.
Right, because what they're doing with the men simultaneously. So what, man, we are running out of time.
Yeah,
You
but
gotta come back.
That's
You gotta
fine.
come back.
That's
You
fine.
gotta
And
come
so
back.
that's fine. And so what I'm saying is, if the family's intact, the children will have a better opportunity to make better
Yes.
decisions later, regardless of what religion they're in, and regardless how toxic the marriage is. For those that keep thinking that it got to be a perfect marriage, okay? The study doesn't add, well, if they had 2 great parents, okay? And I had that paperwork here somewhere.
No, I believe you.
Okay,
But so you're saying the situation that happened up in New York where the parents were prostituting their 9-year-old daughter, like that's rare.
That's
but
that's
that is
great.
possible,
Right.
right?
And so
it does matter a little bit.
because they get to see the dynamics of how a man and a woman work, regardless of how
If those dynamics are such where dad's on the couch, mom is working and calling dad out his name, the girl is going to go find her a dude that she can get away with
not
it.
necessarily. So once again, you're going with how you feel. I'm going with research, right?
Okay.
And this is a scholarly research that it was like 30 different things that debunking a lot of myths that people try to say, and just saying that even if they're living together, they need to be married in order for the kid to. We're talking about having a healthy, mentally healthy and healthy kid, good for society. That's what I'm talking about, right? And I'm saying because XYZ. I mean, I made some bad decisions in my life, and I'm thankful that I didn't get caught up in it. And those were my decisions, right? As a man, I'm saying that was my responsibility, right? But I can't make anybody give me the goods, is what I'm saying. Right. And this is the other thing. Typically the woman is the one that's communicating that she wants sex. If the man walks up to you, that's automatically. That's why he's coming to you, because he wants to have sex with you. But sex doesn't happen until the woman says she's comfortable enough for you to have sex with her.
But that makes me sad, especially being a husband and a father. Especially being a husband and father, because I agree with you. Yeah. I've had this happen, like just hold something as simple as holding the door open, and the girl thinking, "Oh, no thanks." Like, what is going on here? You know what I mean? Like, so I know what you're saying, but we're talking about getting to the root of something. I'm saying if you go back to the beginning, one of the punishments for women.
Oh yeah.
You are
cursed. The power, yeah.
He literally says you're cursed to be under the rule of man. Cursed, he says.
Yeah. And that's why
that's why I think, like, one, we have something is in our society that's emboldening women to be disrespectful, to have sex faster, more frequently, more partners.
Absence of the father.
Right. So something is making them think all those things are good, and simultaneously men treating them like, if you're not giving it up, you're not about to get flown out. You're not about to get this purse. You're not about to get this ring.
That's a small percentage of guys, though.
That's a small percentage. So the guys who are just random in the neighborhood,
they're probably like 10 to 20% of guys.
So the random guys in the neighborhood who are kicking game to their coworker at Walmart, most likely still gonna get to sleep with that woman. That's what you're saying.
If he's handsome.
If he's handsome, or can tell a joke, right? Broke dudes got to tell jokes. I think that was a rap lyric.
Something like that.
Yeah.
According, what I'm saying is this, to wrap this one up, is that I'm saying that men are held accountable in the way that women move, because men do things right now, how it works, right? Because of how we have been conditioned. Men do things based on how women move. Right.
I disagree with that. You don't think that men have been being conditioned as well? Even with the advertisement.
That's what I just said. I said we have been conditioned.
We've been conditioned.
Yes. So what I mean by that is that happy wife, happy life, right? You've heard that. Happy, right? So that's a conditioning to make sure that she has everything that she wants. So it based on how men do things so that they can get a woman, right? The type of money that I need to have, type of house, type of car, status that I need to have, it because of how I have, because women have design, maybe not even design, but what's the word I'm looking for? It's not hierarchy, but it's
Matriarchy.
it's where they desire to have somebody better than them.
Oh.
Okay.
Oh man, people who are attracted, I think it's
I can't think of the word. They say it all the time. Okay.
Yeah.
So women design the dating pool since we're outside of, okay, bring him to the father to see if he's a solid dude. Well, dads are not there. So women are having to make the decision on their own if this is a good dude or not.
But I believe just like feminism, that's a reaction.
Whatever. Watch this though.
Okay.
The dating pool is all the guys that are single, okay, and all the women that are single. Who decides who goes on the date, the man or the woman?
Oh man, come on, man. In the world where we have women proposing to dudes now?
No, we're not talking about the minute. I'm talking about overall, who decides who goes on a date, the man or the woman?
I'll say the woman.
Exactly. So the woman says yes to this guy, knowing that he wants to have sex with her. Right? So then they're only going to pretty much typically choose the same 20% of guys based on attraction. Right? And that's without them knowing if they have money or not. That's just based on a physical, because women say, well, I wasn't feeling him. He was handsome, but I ain't like his shoes. You know what I'm saying? All right. So what I'm saying is, if we can get women to see through the lens of scripture, then you will see a different process of how they decide to select the man. Is what I'm saying.
That is Dr. HD. Listen, one last shout out. Tell the people where to find you, what time, and now what is one of your favorite podcasts in the whole wide world, Urban Academia?
For sure, man. This has been a dope opportunity to have a conversation with like-minded individuals, but have a different perspective. For the intellectuals, you know what I mean when I say that. You can find me and us on YouTube, Humble Dad Podcast, 7:30 Central on Monday nights. And also on Instagram, you can find us at Humble Dad Legacy, as well as TikTok, Humble Dad Legacy. And, make sure you tune in to Urban Academia. He gonna disagree with you on a regular basis, but he also going to give you some information, some intellectual information that you can chew on, and also help you build your mental stamina as well. So shout out to you, homie.
I appreciate you, man. Thank you so much for your time.
Absolutely.
Oh my goodness. Great episode. Great episode. I love that dude. Again, check him out every Monday night, 7:30 p.m. Central Standard Time, right there on YouTube, man. Oh, I can't tell you how much I enjoyed that. We're gonna have to have him back. We're gonna look, I got like 15 questions written on the side. You know what I mean? So we're gonna have to have him back. But thank you all so much for joining us. Join us every Saturday night, 5 p.m. Central Standard Time, right here on Urban Academia. They say common sense ain't coming. Well, let's see if we can prove them wrong. Help each other get some. Until then, peace. For you. For you.
like to stay